Is dentistry still worth it in 2026? There's a lot of online narratives around dentistry right now that are very polarizing on both ends of the spectrum. On one side, you hear things like dentistry's dead. It's not worth it anymore. Run while you can. The margin for error is smaller now than it was 10 years ago. You can't accidentally do well anymore. Ownership now requires leadership. Upside is still there, but it is no longer automatic. Your practice will teach you painfully and expensively, but the profession isn't dying. The rules are changing. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited that you are here listening to this right now. This is a topic I've been thinking about for quite a while, and I'll talk a little bit about why. But what I want to talk about is the question that I continue to hear year after year, and I'm going to address it this year. Is dentistry still worth it in 2026? There's a lot of online narratives around dentistry right now that are very polarizing on both ends of the spectrum. On one side, you hear things like dentistry's dead. It's not worth it anymore. Run while you can. And then on the other side, you hear dentists emphasizing and sharing things on the other end of the spectrum like, man, dentistry's amazing. This is the best profession ever. There's unlimited income and total freedom. And the truth, like most things, is kind of somewhere in between those. And I want to frame this conversation with some context. I graduated from dental school and purchased my practice 10 years ago in 2016. At that time, I was looking at a lot of different practices. I was evaluating deals, talking to lenders, running numbers, and trying to kind of figure out what a good practice actually looked like. So fast forward to today, 10 years later, and I still see a lot of practices on the market and look at them, not because I'm personally buying them, but because of my involvement with dentists through coaching and the lifestyle practice. So I see practices across different markets and see them in different ownership styles on a regular basis. So when I talk about whether dentistry is worth it in 2026, this isn't theoretical. It's informed by, what I went through 10 years ago and what I continue to see now in practices that are on the market, and also in my work with dentists that have purchased and we're actually working through ownership and turning their practices around, improving performance. So what has changed during this time period is, in my opinion, the environment. So this question, is dentistry worth it in this year? It feels louder today than it did in 2016. I didn't hear that being thrown out there very much. Is dentistry worth it? There's still some doom and gloom, but not as much as there is now. And we're seeing burnout reported earlier than ever before. Sometimes in the first few years out of school, I actually just saw a post from a dental student that's graduating this year that says, man, I regret it. I shouldn't have done it, but I'm this far, so now I've got to make the most of it. So it's like, already feeling burned out of the profession. And in my opinion, most of the disenchantment doesn't point to a broken profession. It points to misaligned expectations. The margin for error is smaller now than it was 10 years ago. You can't accidentally do well anymore. This episode isn't about nostalgia. It's not this fear-based rant. It's not about convincing anyone to jump into dentistry or to stay into dentistry. What I want to provide today is just clarity, and I want to be realistic in portraying the environment, what it is today, and how you can make better decisions. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about why this question feels heavier now than it did in 2016. And the biggest change is this: the math has changed. There's a number of different things. Higher interest rates have changed ownership. Deals that used to work easily now require more attention and intentionality. Small mistakes compound faster. Overpaying hurts more. Bad systems are exposed sooner. The profit margins as an owner are tighter than they used to be. Not because dentistry suddenly became a bad business, but because costs have risen faster than most people have been able to adapt to. Staffing is more expensive, turnover is more common and is very disruptive, and payroll is no longer something that you can kind of figure out later. And then there's this other area that I call complexity inflation. We have more technology options than ever, where there's more software, systems, subscriptions, and tools that are promising efficiency and growth. But every new system comes with more to manage. There can be more decisions, more oversight, and more things that can break. So the technology didn't simplify ownership. It raised the ceiling, but it also raised the floor, which is good. But the downside is, like I said, the complexity inflation. All of those things need your attention, and they're also taking some of your money each month. Another area is insurance reimbursements. They didn't rise to meet any of these things, and in many cases, they went the opposite direction. So when people say dentistry isn't just what it used to be, what they're really saying is, in my opinion, I didn't realize how intentional I would have to be in dentistry. So the problem is not the dentistry. The problem is that the margin for error has gone smaller. So let me talk a little bit about the important shifts that needs to happen that doesn't get talked about enough. Ownership now requires leadership, real leadership. And that was not always true. In the past, you could be a great clinician, you could buy a decent practice and show up consistently and do just fine. Leadership was helpful, but it was much more optional. And that is no longer the case. Today, if you own a practice, you are leading the people, you're setting expectations, giving feedback, managing conflict, and making decisions without always having the perfect information. So the clinical skills in the past that seemed to suffice for you to do well business-wise, now that alone will not save you. Here's something important to understand. Most leadership gaps don't show up as leadership problems. They show up as staffing issues, low morale, inconsistent results, frustration, building in different ways. That's how it will appear. But you have to internalize that and recognize that as a leadership problem. If you don't intentionally build your leadership skills before you need it, your practice will teach you painfully and expensively. So another hard truth is that there are fewer easy wins in dentistry at this point. You can't rely on volume alone. You can't just pack the schedule and say, well, we've done it this way in the past and it should work. You have to be more intentional with your systems and communication, with how your diagnoses are explained, how treatment is presented. One of the most practical shifts owners can make is this. Stop chasing growth before protecting margin. So before adding more new patients, ask, is our overhead healthy? Is our schedule efficient? Are we keeping what we earn? Before trying to produce more, fix the communication. Production doesn't grow just because you push harder. It grows when the patients clearly understand the value, the options, and the next steps. Diagnosis and treatment acceptance are communication skills. They're not pressure tactics. If you view them as pressure tactics, you are not going to grow. And this is where we see a massive separation happening in our profession. There's a growing gap between dentists who are thriving and those who are struggling. And what's responsible for that gap? Like I said, I don't think that it's clinical skill. Most dentists are clinically competent. There's boards and everything in place to make sure of that. So the gap and what is responsible for it is driven by leadership, communication, decision-making, and self-awareness. So 2 dentists can graduate from the same school. They can buy similar practices, work similar hours, and have completely different outcomes. And that's not luck, that is leverage. So again, remember that the gap in dentistry and what we're seeing between those thriving and struggling is not clinical, it's behavioral rather. So now let's answer this question. Is dentistry still worth it in 2026? From a pure numbers standpoint, yes, it definitely is. Dentists as a whole still earn some of the highest incomes in healthcare, especially when you look at income relative to the number of days worked per year. So the lifestyle potential is still there. The autonomy is still there. The upside is still there, but it is no longer automatic. Dentistry at this point rewards intentional operators, not passive participants. So one last actionable point here. Stop waiting to feel ready. I see this question all the time. How do I know if I'm ready to buy a practice? How do I know if I'm ready to start this portion of treatment in my office? Readiness almost always comes after action, not before it. The dentists who struggle the most aren't lazy. They most likely delayed developing the skills that the environment demands on them. I have heard this for a long time, and I've talked to older dentists that have talked about this as well. Every generation says that the golden age of dentistry is over. They said it 20 years ago, they're saying it now, and they'll be saying it 20 years from now. But the profession isn't dying, the rules are changing. And that is what stays constant, the changing rules. So the real question isn't, is dentistry still worth it? The real question is, are you willing to practice dentistry the way that today's environment requires of you? Because if you are, dentistry can still be an incredible vehicle. Every dentist that I'm working with currently at this point is either working 3 days a week or has a plan and a timeline to get there. And their income for all of them is over $400,000 a year, which is a great situation to be in. There are not many careers that you can find that allow that type of flexibility and income. And for many of my clients, they are above $600,000 a year in income. But if you're not willing to change and adapt, it will be harder. It will be heavier. There will be more disappointment each year. So everybody, keep working hard, keep crushing it. Don't take any of your dreams and visions off of the table, because that's what can be the most fun and most inspiring and beneficial about still being involved in dentistry at this point. Take care, everyone, and we'll be talking to you soon.